everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Havenscape. Here with your host, Chris Fernandez, and your co host, Tristan Watts.
Hey.
This is our first one, so we're kind of nervous, but super excited to be doing this. This is a far cry from the first one we did many
Yes.
moons ago. It never saw the light of day.
It was a
But
little all over the place, so.
oh, it was. Today we're a little bit more prepared, and we're hoping to set this as our standard moving forward. And we do plan this being a weekly thing, um, as long as we can be consistent about it. That's our hope. That being said, we have quite a docket today. We want to talk about Lorcana, which released last 2 weeks ago. We wanted to talk about Wilds of Eldraine. The new Magic the Gathering set that's coming out this weekend. We want to talk about the pre-release, what it means to do a pre-release, some tips and tricks on how to do a pre-release as a player, and we're going to be talking about our top 5 cards from the set. We're going to have some honorable mentions, and after that, we'll talk about the commander decks, and we'll give some insights on upcoming events for Haven Games. Um, as you all know, this is tied to my game store, Haven Games, and that's why it's called the Haven Cost. But yeah, before we start with Lorcana, is there anything you would like to add, Tristan?
Yeah, Haven Games is located in Nixa, Missouri, for those of you not near us. So if you ever find yourself in the southwestern portion of Missouri, stop in and say hi. Chris and Ellie will most likely be there and will be awesome to you. But yeah, that was the only thing I had to add before.
Only if we know you.
Oh, yeah, totally.
If we don't know you, you can just get out.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm kidding.
No, they're great to everyone who comes in. So yeah, you want to talk about Lorcana? Because that came out what, this week, last week?
Last week, it's like 2 weeks ago on a Friday, the 18th. So it's been 11 days now.
Wow.
So effectively nearly 2 weeks. Yeah. We hit that game hit the ground running, man. Um, on Friday, by Friday, we had pre-sold our entire stock of Lorcana. Um, Almost everyone picked everything up on Friday, so our sales that day were remarkable.
Yeah,
It was so nice to see. The reception for this game has been overwhelmingly positive. I want to say. Um,
I think it helps
Big
that.
thing that I
Oh, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I think it helps quite a bit that it's Disney. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, entertainment corporation in the world. Um, this game was extremely hyped from the beginning. Um,
Yeah, it was.
I I unfortunately have many Disney adults in my life, and who do not touch trading card games in the slightest. Who were talking about buying entire cases of Lorcana if they could find them.
Yeah.
Um, so it's going to be, I think from a player standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see how much of the product sells as a collectible rather than game pieces, and how much of a competitive scene actually builds around it. Um, I lost my train of
Yeah.
thought, but yeah,
No, so to cut in then, so let me address that. Yeah. So I think people shouldn't really treat this as a collectible game. It's nice. It has like collectible things. It has like the alternate art. Aurora, I think. It
yeah,
has the alternate art. There's another one that I can't remember right now. And before the last time I checked, some of these cards were going for over $300. So there is a collectible aspect of it. Should that be the focus of this game? I don't think so, especially right now that it's so scarce.
yeah.
In these first 2 weeks of its release. So the interesting thing that Team Lorcana did or Disney did, is that they gave game stores a 2 week head start before it came out in big box stores, which is amazing because that way we don't end up competing with a Target or a Walmart. Now, The other thing is that I love is the fact that this game, it's very easy to learn. Um,
It does seem very
the
simple.
fact, yeah, the fact that it resembles Magic in some ways, and it resembles Pokemon in another way. So in the Magic aspect, you have that your cards, you don't have mana, but your cards can become mana. Um, uh, so I that's really interesting because that means a lot of the games does not hinge on whether you draw your mana or you don't. It eliminates a lot of the feel bad. So that's really good. The other thing that's interesting that makes it a lot more like Pokemon is that there's no interaction with your opponent. There are no instant speed cards like there are in Magic. There are no instant speed effects like there are in Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and other games that are similar. You don't have trap effects or anything like that. You solely play on your turn, just like Pokemon. You don't. The only way you attack other monsters to get them or characters is by if they're exerted or tapped. So that means they're sideways. That's exerted. In Magic, we call it tapping. They're tapped. So the only way to battle another monster is you attack monsters. You don't attack the player. Um, is by waiting for them to be exerted and then challenging it with your own character, attacking it, so to speak. So that's the only real interaction that you get, really. Otherwise, you just type your monsters for lore. They have a little symbol in their text box that represents the lore, and you have to get to 20. That's the basis of the game. You just get to 20 lore and you win. Um, so you have you have monsters or characters that have one that can make one lore, two lore, three lore, and so on. So the fact that you have no interaction kind of segues into why I think that maybe a competitive circuit might not be super viable for this game. Uh, but I think that's a good thing.
Make it more of
Uh,
a casual
I
two-player interactive solitaire, even though it has no interaction.
well, you can still like banish other monsters and stuff like that,
Right.
and deal damage to them, and try to get them off the board and characters. Keep calling them monsters, but Mickey's not a monster, or Aurora's not a monster. They're characters.
Right.
so so the interesting part is that even their league information for game stores was to keep it casual. All of the league's
Interesting.
instructions give you points for everything. They give you a little point for they give you points for winning. They give you points for losing. They give you points for dressing up as a character. They very much incentivize that you have fun with the game instead of taking it too seriously, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that
And
is something that I feel modern trading card games really lack, as a lot of them they really try their best to be the next Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or
yeah,
Pokemon, and they tend to target the tournament grinders, the sweats, and Lorcana seems very much like it wants to kind of hit that niche audience of we enjoy playing card games, but we don't enjoy necessarily grinding, 3 tournaments a week just to make enough
yeah,
points to get to like a pro tour or something or a qualifier.
yeah. I will go on record saying, and I have gone on record saying that Lorcana is exactly what the trading card game community needed. We needed a game that was focused on being fun first, casual first, and then everything else.
Yeah,
And it's kind of a brave thing to do, but I feel like Team Lorcana probably when they were designing the game, or whoever was designing the game, they were like, this is Disney IP. Like I don't have to make this game be a Magic or something. It'll hold its own
right.
out of the Disney IP.
Like it already has
And
its own magic to it.
yeah, and being this casual means that it's more accessible for people to play it. I have heard so many people tell me it's like, "Hey, my partner never plays TCGs. They were never interested in touching a card in their entire life, but they saw Arcana and they want to play. This is my chance."
Yeah.
you know, and this game is very much what I like to call the gateway trading card game now. This is the
Yeah,
official
that's a
gateway
great way to
trading
put it.
card game that if you want someone to get into Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, get them into Lorcana first.
Anecdotally, my brother-in-law, who is your typical dude, very much into typical
Okay.
dude stuff. Um, he recently, I say recently, she's like turning 6 next year. But they have a daughter with my sister, and because of that, he's always known about like Magic and like other major card games like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, but he hasn't really
Yeah.
ever looked too deeply into it. But they live like right outside of Orlando, so they're like in Disney Central, and all it took was my niece to say, "Hey, Daddy, I want to try this Disney game." They got that, and next thing I know, he's building Lord of the Rings decks on Arena. Like it was like within a week. Like it really was like that gateway.
That
It
is
was,
awesome.
yeah, it was kind of
I'm
crazy to
telling
see
you,
in real
man.
time because next thing I know, I'm getting texts at like 2 a.m. being like, "Hey, is Orcish Bowmasters a good card?" And the answer is yes. Um,
Oh, maybe.
yeah,
We'll wait and see after the Pro Tour.
yeah, yeah. It's only getting played in every deck that runs black. It's fine.
Exactly.
But
But yeah, that's Lorcana in a nutshell. It's fun. It's very laid back, and I'm gonna pivot into an ad. We're doing Lorcanites on Tuesday nights at 6:30.
is that what they're called? Lorcanites?
It's I call it Lorcanites.
Lorcanites.
So it's at 6:30, and you can even come in earlier. The Our Lorca nights are exactly like our Commander nights, where you just show up and you jam games with somebody. There are no rounds. There's no
Structure.
timers. Nothing. You just show up, play with somebody, get points for hanging out.
That's awesome.
So that's part of the league, and the league is divided by rounds, and each round is 4 weeks long, right? So one whole month is basically a round, and every time you play, you get points, and at the end of the round, depending on how many points you got, you can only get a maximum of 10 per week, or per week. Excuse me. You get promos. They sent us promos to give out. They sent us pins to give out. So we just kind of hang out and show up and just have fun.
You had me at pins and promos.
Yeah, they're sweet
Oh,
too.
so when you say pins,
They're
are they
like,
like the enamel like Disney park pins that you get for like your land? Oh, wow. Okay.
oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
really nice quality too.
Wow. Okay. I
They're
did not
like
know that.
gold and gold trimmings and everything. It's really nice. So,
I think
but yeah,
I think that's
should
awesome.
we move on to pre-release
I,
talk
I
now?
was gonna say that sounds like a good segue into Wilds of Eldraine coming out. What is it? This Friday that it's
This Friday.
pre-releasing. So that's
Yep.
for those of you wondering, if I can get my calendar up, that should be what, the 1st of September?
The 1st of September, and this weekend
Okay.
rather.
Yeah.
Um, game stores are going to be having pre-releases all weekend. Ours is going to be September 1st at 7 p.m. and on Sunday the 3rd at 2 p.m. Um, we're doing pre-registers on our webpage, haven-games.com. You can visit that. We'll probably put it in the show notes, right?
Yeah, I'll link it in the description.
Yeah. It's going to be $25. You get 2 packs just for participating, just for showing up, basically. And if you do well enough, you get an extra pack if you go undefeated, for example. Um, and if we have enough, we'll probably throw in another pack or something. There's going to be promos too. They're sending us extra pre-release promos. They're like retro 30th anniversary cards. Like the French Hermit Queen that people
Yeah.
got. That should be handed out at pre-releases, that sort of thing. It's really sweet.
Do we know what the promos are this time around? Because I know, like, the last pre-release I did, we got, like, Niv Mizzet and Acidic Slime and Eternal
Um,
Witness, I think it was. And I think that was for March of the Machine.
Dude, they sent us a ton. I think we got, I think there's a demon called Harvester Souls. I think it was. I think whenever a creature dies, you draw a card or something like that.
Okay.
We got those the French Hornet Queens. We got Goblin Rabble Masters.
Really?
Um, yeah, yeah, it's they're awesome. And
I'm
I
pulling up
don't
the list of the
remember. I think that
promos.
there's another one or two.
Yeah, Hornet Queen, Harvester of Souls was Colonian Hydra in Spanish, one of them.
Yes, the
Okay.
Spanish Colonia Hydra.
Uh,
They sent us only two, so I'm very
yeah,
judicious about who gets it. I want to know. I don't know how random I'm gonna make it yet.
yeah. It kind of sounds like it's what they did for like Tarmogoyf for Lord of the Rings pre-release, where like most stores only got one. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I only got the one Tarmogoyf too. I was like, I don't know who to give this
mhm.
to. Like, how
Yeah.
do I make this decision?
Well, I'm pretty sure like there's a level 3 like WPN premium store here in Springfield, and I think they only got one as well. So I'm pretty sure like some of these are artificially limited for the sake of collectible or like collectability.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm looking at this list here, and I didn't realize how far along into the 30th anniversary we are. We're in the back third after Wilds of
dude.
Eldraine.
There's they've done so many. They started with the Bolt Lightning, the Sarah Angel, and the
Fintorn
German
Elves.
Finhorn Elf.
Yeah.
They started there, and
And
that was sweet. The first time I opened those, I was like, "Holy crap, these are cool!"
yeah,
Because they're all retro too.
it's weird. I didn't realize we had crossed over into the realm of cards that were new to me when I started playing. So like Acidic Slime and Terrastodon being right there. And yeah, it's weird that we're gonna start gradually moving into closer and closer things. Like I guess Deadly Dispute is gonna be getting a card for
Yeah.
2021 for the Polo set. Oh wow, it really looks like it's going to be from the end of Wilds of Eldraine. So Lost Cavern of Ixalan has the next four, and then the last four are going to be Polo. So what is it, Murder at Markov Manor or something?
I don't remember. I'm yeah. There's so much. There's so many set releases, man. I can't. It's hard for me to keep track, and I try to, but we have so many set releases for Magic, and then
Yeah,
we have all these set releases for Pokemon that I have to keep track of, and then I have all these set releases for Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's just uh,
there's so
I don't
much.
have space in my brain for everything. It's just so much, but I really try.
Oh, sorry, it's
But
Murder at Karlov Manor.
yes,
Yeah.
I
So
remember that.
okay, I
All I remember is that one. There's the there's the Final Fantasy set coming out.
yeah.
Uh,
There's Fallout, Assassin's Creed. Um, there's gonna be like a traditional horror set at the end of next
yeah.
year. Next year looks fun. But we're getting
But
off
anyway,
topic.
Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah, Wilds of Eldraine pre-release specifically. For those of you who haven't done a pre-release before, what it's going to entail is you're going to get a pre-release kit with 6 booster packs and a promo pack, which will come with like a random foil rare mythic from the set with a little 2023 date stamped onto it, and then you'll get like a cool little spin down die. What you do is you crack the packs, and you build a 40 card deck out of the cards you pull, and then you play against other players who also did the same thing. It's a very casual format. No one really knows the rules of the new mechanics when it comes out, so veteran players are kind of on the same playing field as brand new players who have maybe only played a game or two. It's overall just a super fun time, and with all those cracks getting packed, or all those packs getting cracked, someone's
The
going
cracks
to,
getting packed.
yeah, someone's gonna pull something fun, and those are the memories that are made. Is when you pull that super fancy mythic rare like Beluna Grand Squall, who's this cool teamer giant lady who does stuff with adventures. Um, it just makes for a really casual and easygoing format. Um,
Yeah.
that
But
being
sealed
said,
is one of my favorite formats. It's
yeah,
sealed and drafting. Um, it's like you said, the beauty about playing sealed, especially at pre-release, is that everybody's on some like on some level they're on an equal footing because all the cards are new. Uh, as long as I've been playing for what 23 years now, and I can open. I will sit down at the pre-release. I'm gonna build my deck, and I'm gonna play. I can sword. I promise you that I by accident, I will play a sorcery as an instant.
Yep.
It will happen because these cards are new, and I'm gonna read the card and be like, "This feels like an instant," and I'm gonna play it as an instant, and then like a turn later, reread it and be like, "Oh, I just cheated.
Yeah.
This is a sorcery."
Yeah. And that's the fun part about
Happens to me
pre-release is
all the
everyone accidentally cheats at some point during pre-release. Um,
time.
yeah.
But so big thing is read and reread your cards
And if you're not
over
sure,
and
call a
over.
judge.
Have yes, absolutely. But big thing, yes, you pay we a minimum is 40 cards, like you said.
Hmm.
And super important is that you all you really need, you don't need 40 cards to be playable. All you really need is 24 cards or 23 cards to be playable. And then the rest of your spots are lands.
Yeah.
They're basic lands,
Which
right?
are
So you
generally
just need
provided by
your
the store of wherever you're doing your pre-release. Um,
yes.
Now, Chris,
So
you've got a secret technique when it comes to
it's not
sealed
a secret
decks.
technique. It's the Chris special. It's where I play 41 cards, and I always play 20. I always play 25 cards and 16 lands. Always, without fail.
Yeah, I used to
Very
give
rarely.
I used to make fun of you for it, and then I tried it, and then every time I do it, um, last draft notwithstanding, because that was awful, but
Yep.
every time I do sealed, at least with that little trick, I go 4-0 or 3-0, or
Yeah.
I go undefeated, and
Yeah.
it's wild. So
It's
that's
really
the
weird.
little
I don't know what it is.
that's the Haven secret to success. It'd be funny to see everybody at pre-release trying that
Doing
and see what
yeah,
happens.
doing unconventional things
Yeah.
for conventional results. But
So
but I was gonna ask you
yeah.
actually. One, should I turn on the lights?
Uh,
Is it too dark?
no, your face is nice and illuminated. All right, bye, Chris. And
Is that better? Should I just be doing this moving forward,
yeah, sure.
or is it too bright now?
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
We'll have
okay.
to see how it looks after recording. I think
No,
that's
so when you're sitting down, it's your so Tristan.
yeah,
It's Wilds of Eldraine. You sit down. It's your first time playing this format
yeah.
or this set. What is the first thing you look for when you're building your deck?
First thing I look for is I look for win conditions, or big, uh, what we call in the biz bombs, um, which are generally large creatures or very effective spells that are hard to deal with. An example being like a 5/5 with flying for like 5 mana. That's a really good creature spell for
Yeah, that's a
uh,
good rate.
yeah, that's a really good creature spell for limited. Uh, I look first for my creatures that are going to be difficult to block and difficult to handle, because at the end of the day, most of the time creatures are going to win you the game in sealed or in limited formats. Um, the thing I look for after that is removal. I start looking for efficient removal at good rates. If I can straight up kill or exile something for 2 to 3 mana, that seems pretty worth it to run, in my opinion. Um, or even if I can send something to like the top of the deck or the bottom of the deck or back to the hand for a reasonable rate while still being able to put pressure on my opponent, that's kind of the things I look for. Um, Unless the sole exception to this is if I pull a card that in no way, shape, or form should work in a deck, I will force build around it. Like if I pull like some beefy 5-color mythic rare, like you bet I'm building around it.
There's no mana fixing in this set, and you're like, ah, just
Yeah,
all the basic lands.
yeah, like, oh, I pulled both a Will
No
and a
fear.
Rowan. I guess I'm playing 4-color jank, you know. But
Yeah,
no, like if I'm playing to try and be consistent and to try to do my best in my matches, I'm definitely looking for those really big creatures with like trample or some kind of evasion or some kind of protection like hexproof or ward, that
yeah.
make them difficult to deal with, and then I look for ways to deal with my opponent's creatures because those are going to be they're probably going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah. And what Tristan is talking about is generally like when it's similar to how I approach it. I look at my rares and I look about like I look at how strong my rares can be, and I go like, oh, this red rare is like insanely powerful. I should this should be my top end. This is how I win the game, or what's gonna help me win the game, right? So then I move on to looking at the rest of my red cards. My red cards. I make sure that my red cards are there, that have good removal of good creatures, have enough of them to at least be half of my colors, right?
Yeah,
And then I look at a secondary color usually, depending on what I pulled from the set, from my packs. Um, if I have enough for one color, which is very rare and sealed, I will try to do so. That's also how what rares and strong creatures you open, and how much of those colors you open is gonna determine how you approach your games too.
yeah,
Um, like make no mistake, bombs, strong creatures, for example, is going to be insanely important. So bombs, creatures with evasion, like you said, trample, flying, unblockability of some kind,
yeah,
menace. Those are very strong keywords when it comes flying. I don't know if I mentioned flying, but
yeah. You
flying.
did.
Those are very strong keywords. Okay. It's like Dutch. What's the Dutch bowl motto? You Dutch twice.
Yeah.
Um, so So yeah, creature with evasion and then removal. And I prioritize removal a little highly. Um, but if you have enough of it and you have more good spells than you have creatures, then that kind of determines what your role is going to be moving forward in an actual game. So generally that means you're going to be playing a little bit more controlling. You're going to be controlling the board more. You're going to be drawing more cards maybe. You might want to be on the draw, sorry, in those games because you want to have the extra card.
Hmm.
And you might even want to block more aggressively with your creatures, trade more with your creatures, that sort of thing. But uh but yeah, those would be like the fundamentals of draft. And when you open the pre-release kits, you're gonna have a little card as well. Sort of, it's like a little a booklet type of thing,
Yeah,
flyer thing.
it's like a little leaflet that's folded into fourths. That kind of shows you like what the ideal mana curve would look like. You know, how
Yeah.
many creatures are like in the most generic possible like 40 card deck. How many spells? How many lands? Um, and it kind of gives like those really basic fundamentals on building a limited deck.
Mhm.
Um, but it doesn't tell you like the nuances of like, hey, if you pull say like this what let's take Phyrexian Obliterator for an example from Phyrexia All will be one. If you pull like a Phyrexian Obliterator, which is like 4 black mana for like this insane creature, but you don't pull anything else that would make running black worth it or consistent, I
Yeah.
wouldn't run it. Contrary to what I said like 5 minutes ago when I was talking about running 4 color janky
With the
stuff.
fight colors.
Yeah. But you know, on a like on the pretense of trying to win, you really even those uncommon slots can be very powerful in this format. Even some commons can be very powerful in this format. Um, while rares and mythics are kind of like the more flashy cards, your common and uncommon slot is going to be where your consistency lies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There is such a thing as a bomb uncommon. So
Heck, there are
there's been
bomb
plenty of
commons.
those.
Gurmag Angler comes to
Uh,
mind.
Dude, yeah. I remember Sarah Angel used to be a bomb uncommon. Just play a 4/4 vigilance flyer, and it's just so hard to
Sarah Angel
lose
used
with
to
it.
be a bomb rare.
Yeah. It
uh,
used to they I don't know if you know this, but back in the early days when Sarah Angel was a thing, it was such a strong card and in standard and stuff. They actually stopped printing it for a while because it was too strong.
I didn't know that.
We're talking we're talking about the time when you had Grim Monoliths in Tolarian Academy. It's like, oh, Sir Angel's too strong.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do remember like way back in the day, like when I was a wee lad, like Wizards was terrified of printing good creatures. But then they were like, yeah, Necropotence is fine.
Yeah, it's just a recall. Yeah, sure. Let's
Yeah,
draw 3 cards for 1 mana.
yeah. You know what? You can take an extra turn for 2. That sounds good. Um,
But yeah,
but
but yeah.
speaking of good cards in the common and uncommon slot, do you want to talk about your top 5 favorite cards of the set?
I would love to. What about you? Do you have your own top 5 list?
I do. It's almost like we planned this.
Oh, what? We came with a plan?
Yeah.
Oh, look at us. Already prepared on a first showing.
Yeah.
But
Do do you
let's
want to
let's
start
start
with
with the
your
honorable mention.
Yeah, do you want to start with your honorable mentions and then I'll go with mine and we can just go bottom of our list to the top? Just back and forth?
All right.
Okay.
All right. So it's no secret that I love blue cards. So a lot of my lists involve blue cards, but they're very good or surprisingly good. And weirdly enough, one of my honorable mentions that I really wanted to touch on was the card called Quick Study. Let me see if I can share the screen and
Is that the one that's
look.
2 mana and a blue to draw 2 cards?
Yep, it's 2 and a blue. Let me see if I can find it here. Quick study, quick study, quick study. It's in the queues. Oh, I passed it. There it is.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. Quick study
This one over
is that
here.
an instant?
It is an instant.
So it is a strictly better divination.
Yes. That's why
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, that seems okay. I have it pulled up here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That distinction of instant and like instant over sorcery makes this, I feel, a lot more playable.
Do you know why I'm so excited, Tristan?
Why?
Because back in the day, I had to tap out on my turn to draw 2 cards. Now I can wait. Now I can do it on your turn.
Now you can threaten counter magic.
Yes, I can counterspell you and draw 2 cards, or draw 2 cards.
Yeah,
Like, quick study is what we always wanted out of divination, but I think it was too strong, and I really like that it's a thing now. I don't know how good it's going to be in the current state of Magic, where in Modern you're playing free spells, or excuse me, or in Pioneer you have to battle through Fable of the Mirror Breaker, stuff like that. But in Standard, I can totally see this card being played, especially in the mono blue Haughty Jin decks and that sort of thing. But I just it's everything I ever wanted from a divination. I just wanted it to be an instant. That's all
and
I wanted.
and it's pauper legal. That actually seems really good in
Yes.
many different pauper decks. I feel. Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
something that did surprise me that it was not an uncommon. It's a common.
If
So
yeah,
I honestly I see this being played.
yeah, I do too. I'm not sure what particular shell outside of maybe Talarian Terror would run it in
Yeah.
Pauper, but I can
I
definitely
mean,
see it
control
seeing
decks.
play in even Standard. Um,
Yeah, control decks will play it, and blue white control decks or blue black control decks. I can, decks I want to hold up counter magic, like make
yeah,
disappear, or the new spell stutter, for example, which is right there. Which surprise, surprise, is probably one of our lists as well.
yeah,
um, but I can, yeah, I see quick study seeing some amount of play, or people will at least try it out
yeah.
and
It
see if it's
definitely
good
seems
enough.
worth worth testing in basically any blue shell that wants to run like heavy levels of interaction. It seems overall like it doesn't seem like a broken card, but it doesn't seem weak either. It seems like the perfect
Yeah,
level of balance. It really does, I feel, fix divination, which was a card I didn't think would ever need to be fixed, but here we are.
improved.
Yeah.
Improved is the word you're looking for.
I mean, who's going to run divination over a quick study?
Absolutely no one.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so my first honorable mention is more of a commander card than anything else. But it's Balloona Grand Squall. Uh,
Oh,
she's
that's the
she's the
let me see if I
4/4
can
for
pull it up.
green, blue, and red. She's a legendary giant noble. Uh, and she's fun because she has a nice little adventure on her called Seek Thrills for 2, a green, a blue, and a red. There's an instant that says mill 7 cards, then put all cards that have an adventure from among the milled cards into your hand. And then when you cast her properly, she's a solid 4/4 for 3 with trample, and she makes your adventure spells cost 1 less. Or permanent spells, rather, that have adventures on them cost 1 less. Um,
That card is sick. A 3 mana 4/4.
yeah, 3 mana 4/4 with a ton of card advantage and upside and a cost reduction effect. She seems She seems like she will be a popular commander, if not a very popular one.
I'm not gonna lie, but I can see this in like more competitive formats.
Hmm.
I didn't realize it was a 4/4 for 3 mana trample. Like curving this out from Edgewall Innkeeper, the one
Yeah,
1 for 1 that we used to have, that when you play a creature with venture,
yeah,
you draw a card. Like I can see this curve being right there, being awesome.
yeah. I can see a teamer aggressive deck, like a teamer aggro deck, building up around this with like an adventure sub theme to it. Just because a 4/4 for 3 with trample is amazing, and if you draw her late game, then you can get some pretty insane card advantage if you build the deck right.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
adventures
it's not bad
are
at all.
traditionally very easy to build with, just because you get permanents with extra modes basically tacked onto them.
Yeah,
And they're hard to deal with because you cast the adventure side, they go into exile instead of graveyard, so you're not getting rid of them that way. You gotta wait for them to either hit the stack or hit the field after that.
no, this card looks sweet, sweet, sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, I also didn't realize that the adventure side of it is also an instant.
yeah,
Like paying 5 mana is super steep, but doing it at the end of one of your
yeah.
opponent's
Paying
turn,
5 mana to get through more than a tenth of your deck and pulling
this
anything
card
relevant out of it seems pretty nutty.
is
I
this your honorable mention?
Yeah, this is just my honorable mention. Spoiler alert: my top 5 has a lot to deal with Pauper
That's funny.
because I really like the Pauper format. Um,
If you want, we can move on to the top five then.
okay,
I don't have it in any particular order, so I'm gonna jump from one, two, or three, or five, or four,
okay,
and then two, and
I've
then
got mine
three.
in order.
I don't know. I couldn't decide. So, but let's. What's your first card?
Yeah, my first one is it's an uncommon enchantment named Bitter Chill. For 1 in a blue, you get an aura that enchants a creature. When it enters the battlefield, you tap enchanted creature. The enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. And when Bitter Chill is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you can pay 1 generic. If you do, you scry 1 and draw a card. To me, this feels like some of the best limited removal in the format. Tapping down a creature pseudo
Jeez.
permanently for 2 mana and then getting card advantage on top of it if it goes away is really strong. And only at uncommon, you're likely to see this in a pool somewhere.
Yeah.
It just feels like a good card overall, and I could even see, um, I can already see some shells of like blue black fairies in standard starting to maybe incorporate this as just kind of some blue removal that nets them
Yeah.
cards in the long run.
Actually, how does bargain read?
Bargain reads
Bargain. You may sacrifice.
you
Oh, dude.
yeah, when you cast the spell with bargain, you can sacrifice what was it, a creature, artifact, or token.
Or enchantment too. So that's what I was double checking,
Yeah,
because this has very good synergy with the bargain cards. So you can once the creature is no longer a threat, you can just sacrifice the enchantment, pay the one, get a
yeah,
scry, and draw another card, and you get the bargain
yeah.
bonus as well.
For 2 mana, you get a
Uh,
ton of versatility with this one uncommon. Um, it just seems like a
this
very good
yeah
card to me. Like overall, like it's not broken, but it's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with.
yeah yeah I totally see this. And it's something to look out for whenever you're
Yeah,
building your deck on a pre-release. Um, if you have some bargain synergies, it does play out very well with that.
yeah,
So that's kind of cool.
yeah. I see many decks
But
across many formats wanting to try this out. Now, what
I'm
about
gonna
you,
tell you
Chris?
one of mine is a green card. I'm gonna let me see if I can find it real quick. It's questing. Questing, questing. It's the questing. Where are you? Where is it?
You
It's
know
an
it's an
adventure
alphabet.
card
It's in
too.
alphabetical order.
Well, I don't know my alphabet. I don't know my ABCs.
Oh. Well, Q
Well,
comes
I
after
do. I
P.
know, but it's right here. There it is. It's on the adventure side of the spoiler, so I have to like look for it. This is probably a card that's gonna be one of my favorite cards in the set that I will never get to play with because it's so underpowered. But back in the day, we had a card called Quirion Dryad. Um, it is. I have adored that card, and it was so strong at the time because it was played in early 2000s extended. So you still have Force a Wheel, and you had a lot of free spells like that. You still have Brainstorms, Source to Plowshares, all those things. So the idea of the Quirion Dryad is to just play 1/1 for 2, and then you Force a Will the next spell, Daze another, and then suddenly you have a 3/3, and then you Brainstorm, you have a 4/4, and it just snowballs out of control. This one is literally all practically the same card, except it has adventure, and the adventure is a reckless impulse. You
That's
exile the
pretty
top two
good.
cards of your library onto your next end step. You may play those cards, and it's an instant, and you play one and a red. So it's an instant reckless impulse. Interesting bit about it is that you do lose the cards at the end of your turn. So if you do it in your main phase, you have to play those cards right then and there. Otherwise, you just lose them, which is kind of it's a small drawback, but it's an instant, so you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you can play those cards throughout your turn until the end. Um, I love this card. Will it see any play? I doubt it. Am I gonna try to build something in modern with it because you get because the card doesn't care if the spell is a creature or a non-creature or whatever, which is a little different from traditional prowess or whatever. So you can play a Fury, and it's a 2/2. You can play a Solitude, it gets another counter. You can play these cards for free. You can force some negation as well, that sort of thing. So will this be very playable? I don't know,
What I
but
think
we
would
have free
be
spells.
what I think would be interesting with this card is specifically in modern, trying this over Tarmogoyf and Jund.
Um, yeah,
Or maybe like
yeah,
cut a or two Tarmogoyfs and run, these as the remaining playset. I mean, it really it really helps reward playing multiple colors in your deck. Um, it has that impulse draw, which is traditionally very good.
yeah.
It seems like I wouldn't be upset to
Honestly,
see this in a match of where I'm playing kind of a mid-rangey deck.
honestly, I was gonna judge you and be like, "That's replacing a Tarmogoyf, you fool." But but the more I think about it, you might be onto something because not only do you get Furies and Seasoned Pyromancers and Fables and all these things, you get Thoughtseizes, you get Unholy Heats, you get
Hmm.
and you can get so much value out of the Druid by exiling the top two. Right at the end
Yeah,
of my turn, at the end of your turn, I get extra card advantage there. Um, I can totally see that because Goyf has been on the way out.
for a while.
It's Goyf is like holding to dear life to that format, trying to stay relevant, like really hard.
Yeah, well, I think
So,
I think having no keywords and no other upside outside of just being kind of a big thing when it hits. Um,
and if he only had trample, right?
yeah, if he had trample, he'd be actually broken. Um,
Yeah.
but I
I don't know if I gotta say broken, but
I
yeah.
I would a turn two like 3/4 with trample seems pretty good.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
what's
could.
your next card?
Oh yeah, my next card. This one has no real rhyme or reason other than I think it's a cute card. Regal Bunnycorn. it's uh, it's for one and a white. You get a rabbit unicorn, which has a
Yes,
simple effect. Its
there
power and
it is.
toughness are each equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. Um, I cannot wait to die to this. Like I am going to go up against. I'm not sure what format it's going to be yet, but I'm going to go against a white weenies deck, and I'm going to die to the rabbit unicorn.
Dude, I love how cute this art is.
Yeah, like it. I mean, yeah, it's just adorable. Elsa
Could
Gort
it
did
be?
an amazing job on the art on this. It just feels very fairy book, and like
Yeah.
it just seems like a generally interesting card. I feel like they have tried the whole power and toughness are equal to the number of insert permanent hero that you control, but it's going to be interesting to see how big this thing gets when it just counts anything that isn't a land.
I'll I'll be honest with you. I'm willing to try this in some like white weenie sideboard where you switch game plans into like wedding announcement
Yeah,
because it counts any null and permanent. So that includes the wedding announcement, the tokens you make with it, the ossifications.
yeah, that
So
adds up.
if you like, yeah, it does. It does. It really does. And portable holes and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like, I could see Regal Bunnycorn really big in some sideboards. Like I I like this card a lot, and I'm with you. It's freaking adorable. So
I think its only drawback is no keywords, but at the same time, I feel like
man,
this
if
gets
there had only been a human, a rabid human unicorn, so it can benefit from Thalia's lieutenants or something.
yeah, like it. I don't know. This card seems like it has the potential to break somewhere down the line. Maybe not yet, but it's one I'm going to keep an eye on. I think it just seems stupid fun.
Oh, you know what? Maybe in standard in that the green white enchantment stack,
Oh
I
yeah,
could
I
see it there.
as soon
It
as I
doesn't
said
care
I can't
about
wait for
creature
it to be
type, so
broken, I was thinking like ethereal armor or ancestral mask, and I was like, oh, maybe we can make boggles a thing in Pioneer.
it's trying to be a thing. It got second on a pro tour this year, so
Hey, Regal
like it's
Bunnycorn might be fun to slot in just to see how it does.
yeah.
If it doesn't come with a
That being
keyword, give it
said,
the keyword.
so my next one on the list, keeping in line with cuteness, it's of course a blue card, but it's the cutest blue card in all of the set. It's the elusive otter.
Yes.
Um,
I know
I
nothing about
just
the card
passed it
other
on
than
you.
the art.
Oh my god, Chris, where I'm uncultured. Where is it?
Here, I'll try and pull it
We
up.
should for next time. We should have it already pulled up.
I have mine pulled up. I don't know what you're talking about.
What? Oh wait, it's an adventure card. It's in the adventure section.
Oh yeah, it's the blue-green one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I just saw the showcase for the first time, and
there
that's
it is.
adorable.
Boom. I don't know why they divided it that way, where adventure cards are where the adventure cards. It just confuses
It's
me.
because
But
it's multicolor,
elusive
technically.
otter, yeah. So elusive otter is a adventure card. It's a creature otter. It's one blue to cast. It's a 1/1 with prowess. Prowess says that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, creatures with power less than elusive otter's power can't block it. So if there's a board of 1/1s and you manage to, or 1/1s and 2/2s, and you manage to make this a 3/3, it is still unblockable. Now, it has an adventure side, which is called Gross Bounty. It's X and a green mana, sorcery adventure. Distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. Now,
That seems good.
are you gonna play this for the adventure? Probably not. It's like a cool bonus to have.
Yeah,
But are you gonna play it as a 1/1 for one that can grow bigger
and
and
be
be
unblockable.
unblockable? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Is It Phoenix definitely could run this, or really any blue centered like spell slinger.
I am not above that. I will try it.
Yeah, because I mean, like that. The fact that it has kind of a reverse skulk in a way, I think makes that
Yeah.
super relevant. Um, I mean, if you have enough like cantrippy type stuff in your hand, and you've got an opponent with a big board, you just make this guy big enough that they can't deal with it, and then you swing in. They can't do anything about it unless they remove it right then and there.
Yeah.
That's that's really strong. I definitely need to read some of these cards more. And for one
No,
blue, he
this
comes down on turn one.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be the first one to admit that this card might be overhyped because I've heard a lot of rumblings about this card. It might be a little overhyped. Like I think it's really good. I don't know how busted it is or how competitive it is,
I think it's a
but
strong card.
adorable. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
very strong card. It interacts very well with all your cheap spells. I think
yeah.
that's really where this card shines. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a theme where my cards tend to just grow bigger as you play spells.
Yeah,
But this could go. I will put this in the same deck as my Quirion,
yeah.
my Questing Druid. So every time I play a spell, if this gets bigger, my Questing Druid gets bigger,
You know what?
and I'm
Also,
attacking for a lot of damage.
you know what? Go good in a deck that runs both of those. The Teamer Giant.
Oh yeah,
Teamer
that's
Stompy
not
might be
bad.
yeah. Teamer Stompy might be a thing, especially if Elusive Otter rewards you for casting adventures like this. Like that
I've
seems
tried it. I've tried it with Deep Root Champions. I've tried it with actual Quirion Dryads and Standard and Pioneer. I've tried all these cards, and I I'm this close to going back to the drawing board and trying them again.
yeah,
These are all great cards. Bone Crusher Giant is such a good card and triggers both of
yeah,
them if you stomp.
yeah.
You do the adventure side. Brace and Power is like one of my favorite
Well, can you run like
adventure cards.
is Lucky Clover banned in Pioneer?
No.
So you could run Lucky Clover right there and make a Teamer Adventure deck just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. This also with Edgevall Innkeeper, this triggers it too.
Yeah,
Like turn one keeper, turn two otter, or you wait a turn, like you play a tap land, turn two, you go innkeeper otter, you draw a card.
yeah,
Like I that might be potential there actually. I
yeah.
didn't think
I
about that.
I think there's a pretty strong archetype brewing around these just based on the few that we've looked at so far.
Yeah.
Um,
What about you? What's your number two?
my number three is Snare
Oh,
Master
you're number
Sprite.
three.
Yeah, it's a Snare Master Sprite. It's a common. And this is purely a popper pick. Because I'm going to try this in my Mono Blue Fairies deck. But for 1 blue mana, you get a 1/1 Fairy Wizard with flying, and it says when Snare Master Sprite enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 generic. When you do, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Stun counters are a relatively new mechanic from this last year, where if a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, instead of untapping it, you remove a stun counter from it. Um, this seems pretty strong as maybe a sideboard card in against like aggressive matchups in Pauper. Being able to drop another 1/1 basically unblockable creature that you can ninjutsu away again and get more value to recast, while also tapping
Oh,
down
that's
something to
true.
make your other dudes harder to deal with. That seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Whether or not it'll see success, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I would
Ah, you can
replace.
see my cat. You can see my cat at the
Oh, Mika!
drawers trying to trying to put clothes out.
She just looked back at you
I
like,
have
what?
cleaning to do. I have some cleaning to do. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
being able to ninjutsu this, like you said,
while
it's I
also
didn't think
tapping
about
down
that.
something else and maybe ninjutsuing one of your ninjutsu cards back into your hand. Um,
Oh,
seems
actually, do you think this is better than they play 1/2 for one rogue that when it comes into play it gives
Rhyme
minus two,
Barrel
minus zero
Infiltrator.
to
Yeah. Um,
yeah. Do you think this replaces that?
no, if it replaces anything, I think maybe Fairy Miscreant, because Fairy Miscreant requires other
Really?
Fairy Miscreants to draw cards. This does
Yeah.
not require other snare master sprites. Um, I know I'm gonna be playtesting it when it comes out. Seeing how I like it, and I could be it could that 2 extra mana could just be super janky. It's hard to tell. Um,
Well, the floor on this is a very miscreant basically. It's just
yeah,
a 1/1 for one, right?
yeah,
But
with flying,
as you as the game progresses, if you're playing against, for example, some like blue black control deck with
yeah,
Gurmag Anglers or whatever, slowing them down a turn might be relevant.
and being able to bounce this back to your hand and
Against
doing it again and again and again also
yeah, same as
seems
aggro, it might be relevant where you can trade with something maybe early on,
yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my number three. Like I said, I'm picking a lot of popper picks because it's, in my opinion, one of the more fun, accessible formats. And this seems like a
Yeah.
really, really strong card to add to an already strong deck.
Well, I wanna one of my number three, I guess. Let me see. It's gonna be the lands. I put them all together.
Oh, interesting.
The
I'm
creature lands in the
not a
set.
fan of these.
No.
No. Uh, I might be spoiled on dual lands as of late, but I did not think we needed another enemy cycle of creature lands.
Okay, Tristan.
Yeah.
Looking at this lands, which one do you think is my favorite?
Hold on. I am pulling these
Let's
up.
see how well, let's see how well you know me.
I am pulling these up where I can see them better on my screen.
Yeah.
Scrolling down to lands. Are we talking full arts or the regular ones?
We're talking about like the creature lands.
Yeah, like, well, I'm talking. They have full art variants.
Oh, they have full arts. I haven't seen them.
You haven't seen the full art variants?
Oh, I might pull them up in a little bit.
Yeah.
But
um. Honestly,
but
if I had to
just
take a shot in the
strictly,
dark, Restless
yeah.
Pavoic, just because it has a cow on it.
Okay, you don't know me at all. I'm
Apparently not.
disappointed in you.
Which one is it?
So far, I've been doing only blue cards.
Uh, I mean, that's fair. So it's either Restless Spire or Restless Vinestock.
Yes, ding 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 is the restless fire. And I'll give you a hint. Scry one.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know. I think these are super
I
mediocre. Like, they'll see play, but I don't see myself activating them very often.
oh man. Honestly, I think the blue red one is probably the best of the bunch. It's the cheapest to activate. It has a relevant keyword, makes it gets first strike, so it makes it so much harder to block.
Yeah.
And being able to just attack and scry one is so good with a card like this. It's exactly what you want to be doing in your deck. You get to attack and clean up your draw set, for example.
That's fair.
I absolutely love this card. This is my top pick for the creature lands. My close second is probably the bivouac is the next most relevant one,
Just because
and I
it.
think the restless cottage is actually really strong.
What does Restless Cottage do? Create a food token and exile to one target card from a graveyard. Yeah, I can see Restless Cottage being used as kind of a situational hate card on a land, which seems
Yeah.
alright. Um, I don't know though. There's just I don't know if making dual color man lands like this will ever be as strong as the allied colored ones from Zendikar, the original Zendikar.
Well, Raging Ravine was so powerful, and
So was Celestial Colonnade.
um, yeah, I still actually we'll talk. We might talk about it later. My modern deck, but I do have one of those in my modern deck.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
These seem. If you had told me that, a year ago that we were going to get more enemy colored manlands, I think I would have the same reaction now as I did then, which is kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. I don't want to open one of these. Um, but I could see some situational uses for them, and they're rare dual lands. They're going to be played in standard. I don't know if they're going to be played a whole lot outside of standard.
I can see that. I'm
Yeah.
definitely starting with 4 Restless Spires in my standard deck.
Yeah, I will be
I'm
interested to see
starting
how
there.
Restless Spire specifically does, since it does have such a cheap activation. Um, the other
Yeah, man.
four, I could kind of take or leave. Restless Spire seems marginally all right.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's my top third.
Yeah,
Yeah,
top third.
that's my third pick. What's your
So
fourth?
my second favorite card in the set is Blossoming Tortoise. Um, for 2 and 2 green, you get a 3/3 turtle. And when it enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards and return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Activated abilities of lands you control cost one. Ooh, excuse me. Cost one less to activate, and land creatures you control get +1/+1. I have no idea what deck this is going to go into. But Something about land creatures you control get +1/+1 makes me want to brew the jankiest deck I have ever heard of.
You know what my favorite part about this card is?
What?
That the lands you said were jank might be better with these.
I mean, yeah,
It makes like Restless Cottage
I hadn't even
cost
thought of
3
that.
mana for 5/5.
True. I didn't even think of that. I
It's
un-
so good.
I inadvertently undermined my own opinion. You know what? You know what? In the context of Blossoming Tortoise, I like the previous lands a little bit better. Um,
Exactly.
on their own, I think they're bad. With the Blossoming Tortoise, I think they're slightly better.
All right.
um,
So with the Blossoming Tortoise, you think it's better, but without those lands, would the Blossoming Tortoise be better or worse?
I mean, I was gonna like this card before those lands were brought to my
You got
attention.
those?
So I think I'm biased when I say that it's going to be just as good. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, it's going to probably only go in super janky decks. Um, but I'm
So
partial to jank.
Commander being your preferred format, right?
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that.
So with Commander being your preferred format, do you think this card would be really cool with Slumgurg, is it? The ooze that
Uh,
deals with a lot of lands?
the hold on, I gotta look this one up now. Is it one of the Sultai ones?
It's the blue green one.
Blue green Slogurk.
Slumgurg?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Slogurg.
yeah, 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 yeah. Let me go see what he does real fast. I have not played against a Slogurk deck in a hot second.
I can pull it up. Oh, I pulled it up.
Oh, here we go. Whenever land card is put
So
into a graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on them, remove 3 1/1 counters, return it to its owner's hand. When it leaves the battlefield from your graveyard, target land cards from your graveyard, or yeah, return up to 3 land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Seems all right. Yeah, seems good.
build the deck with build a deck with all the blue green creature lands, some mutavaults, some
Yeah.
Sylvan Awakenings,
So I was thinking more of, and
Nature's
I don't know why I'm
Resurgence, I
on like
think.
a,
Natural Resurgence.
I don't know why I'm on like a teamer kick today, but Omnath Locust of the Royal seems like a really strong card for Blossoming Tortoise to slot into. Um,
Yeah.
just because having that one extra color allows you to run a lot more lands with activated abilities that cost mana. Um, like I don't know, Blossoming Tortoise makes Shire Terrace seem decentish. I don't know, it turns Shire Terrace into a Evolving Wilds that taps for colorless. Um,
Yeah.
like you're gonna see a lot of like minor things get better with it. Trying to see anything else.
I
There's
love
not a
the
lot
art on
of
this card too.
there's not a lot of activated abilities. There's a lot of colorless lands I know of that like you pay like 5 and draw a card. Um, reducing
Yeah.
those is going to be really strong. Um, I don't know. I'm not
There's
quite
so
sure
many
how.
good lands out there, man.
Huh?
There's so many good lands out there.
Yeah.
Like you can play uh, there's the land that the Gyrie Sanitarium.
Yeah.
Uh, you do that cheaper. There's a lot of lands that you do benefit from paying less to activate them. So
Yeah.
it's also not legendary. So the more tortoises that you manage to get, if you copy them in Commander, or
Yeah.
you get two of them on the board in Standard or Pioneer, or what have you, your lands
What'll be
like
interesting is seeing.
Mutavault Mutavault transforms for 0,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I
Yeah.
think
Having two of these makes
there might be
Thespian
like
Stage Copy for 0, or Mage Ring. Having one makes Mage
yeah.
Ring Network actually a decent storage land. Um,
Yeah.
it's like there's going to be some situational uses to it. Emergent Zone comes to mind as well, where you don't have to pay mana to cast something at instant speed anymore. You can just sacrifice Emergent Zone, and bada bing, bada boom, you have instant speed creatures or sorceries for a turn.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
going to be really minor things like that I think make this card good, and unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough to make it see play.
so I got mine.
Okay,
Can you guess what color it is?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's blue.
Oh my god! How did you know?
Is it because I think all of yours have been blue or had blue in it, minus the ranger?
The- so the next card is the let me see if I can find it. It's the it's on the S. There it is. This one, the Sleep Curse Fairy. I think this card is actually going to be fantastic. So Sleep Curse Fairy is 1 blue to play. It's a creature fairy wizard. It's a 3/3 flying ward 2. So ward 2 means that if it gets targeted by an opponent's spell, they have to or ability, they have to pay an extra 2 mana for that spell or ability to resolve. So for example, if they try to fatal push my Sleep Curse Fairy, for 1 mana, they have to pay an additional 2 mana, otherwise the fatal push gets countered. Now, Sleep Curse Fairy enters the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counters on it. And then for 2 mana, 1 colorless and 1 blue, you untap the Sleep Curse Fairy. And like I said, it's a 3/3. So the reason I think this card is very, very good, it's that it has so many different play patterns.
Yeah.
And yes, it requires you to spend mana for them, but it's it has so much versatility. So, for example, you play. Let's say you play it on turn 1, right? And then your opponent's a creature deck, and they play some creatures turn 1 and 2, and they attack you. If you have the mana for it, you can just untap and block. And chances are, this fairy is going to be bigger than whatever they have on the board right now.
Yeah.
So even if you pay 2 to untap it and block a creature, and then they try to kill it with a removal spell in response, you come out ahead.
So
Yeah, you lost 2 mana, but
I do want to double check the wording on it because I can't quite read, but I think if you were to untap it, it would just remove a stun counter instead.
yes, that's also true.
Yeah. So this could.
Oh, I see
Yeah,
what you
you can't. Yeah, you
mean.
wouldn't be
Oh,
able to
never
just
mind.
unblock it. It still seems like a good card.
It's still really cool because at the beginning of your turn, you remove stone counters, right?
Yeah,
Your
and
upkeep,
then it would
and they
untap,
get
and
removed.
you would remove another stun counter for free, and then after your untap, you just remove another stun counter, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. But still, the great thing about this is that so if you don't have to anything to counter with or kill or whatever, you can still pay 2 and so that it on tops a turn earlier.
Yeah,
Now, the other thing that I like about this card is that if they can't interact with it in the first 2 or 3 turns. They
yeah.
can't fatal push it. They can't prismatic ending. They can't lightning bolt it. They can't. Um, Also, it doesn't die to a stump from a bone crusher.
True.
It doesn't. There's so many things it just doesn't die to, or makes it so much more uncomfortable for your opponent, and it hits so hard. It's a 3/3. So like, I think this card has a lot of potential. It's finding the right deck. It's finding the right build. It's finding the home for it.
I can already tell
But
you a
I
really
think,
good build it would go in. Pioneer Blue Black Fairies, so you can run Heartless Act to remove those stun counters for 2
dude,
at instant speed.
what? Heartless act.
Yeah. So you play Blue Black Fairies,
What?
and then you just and instead of running Heartless Act as a removal spell, you run it as counter removal for your own stuff.
I did not even think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the kind of janky
yeah.
combos I enjoy.
Yeah, you're playing against control. You do it turn 1. You're playing against control. You Heartless Act doesn't kill anything. Remove
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna
stun
remove these
counters,
stun counters,
and then I
and
have a 3/3.
I have a 3/3 on turn 2 with flying and ward.
Yeah, good luck trying to marsh of otherworldly lighted, and
Yeah,
I I love it,
and it already fits so well into the fairy archetype and the fairy colors that I could 100% see that getting played in that
dude.
way.
It's also a wizard. It's also a wizard, so you can play
Oh yeah.
Wizard's Lightning for 1 red. You can play. This is Pioneer. You can Stoic Rebuttal. No, Stoic Rebuttal is not the right word. It's
Um,
Stoic. No, Wizard's Rebuttal.
Wizard's Retort. Yeah, Wizard's Retort. It's the one that makes
Wizard's Retort. Yeah,
yeah, it just
there it
becomes a
is.
counter spell if you have a wizard.
Yeah, turn one that fairy, turn two I have counterspell and pioneer.
Yeah,
Or that's sort of the kind of thing I live for, and
yeah,
I live for the fact that I get a Wizard's Lightning for 1 mana.
yeah.
I I I think Pioneer needs Lightning Bolt badly. So this is the closest thing I'm gonna get to building my own Lightning Bolts, and it's
Your
easy.
lightning bolt at home.
So like I think it has real potential, especially in Pioneer, which is one of my favorite formats, and it's in my favorite color combination,
Yeah,
as I have demonstrated over and over.
yeah.
But yeah,
I was super mid on that card until I realized the Heartless Act combo 2 days ago. I think it was when I was looking through this list, and I was like, oh, that's a beater if I ever saw one. Um,
so what's your next card?
so my number one card in the set uh, is Wicked Visitor. For one and a black, you get a 2/2 Nightmare that says whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. It is just Disciple of the Vault, but for enchantments.
Oh yeah,
Um, and given the fact that we now have very easily disposable enchantment tokens called rolls coming out in this set, this card is going to kill people.
you think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All you have to do is replace a roll on something, so you just play value by playing any number of cards that create rolls, and you just put them on things that already have rolls. The original rolls fall off; those hit the graveyard.
Yeah,
This starts dinging people. On top of that, in other formats, there are so many enchantments that can be sacrificed um, for little to nothing. Um, I'm going to be interested to see how this is a brew around card, in my opinion. Um, I see a Pauper archetype coming out of it. I see Modern potentially playing around with it.
yeah.
Um, I don't think it's strong enough for Legacy, but it it's going to be. If Disciple of the Vault, granted, artifacts are a lot easier to get rid of, but if Disciple of the Vault
Yeah.
is scary enough to get banned in multiple formats, I can see Wicked Visitor being the quote unquote fixed version.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Big thing is that when Disciple of Volt went very well with like cards like Atog, things that
Hmm.
sacrifice a lot of because you get the combo kill,
Yeah.
which is really the kind of thing you're looking to do with something like Wicked Visitor. But I actually kind of agree with you the more I think about it, because there is Pestilence in the format, and Pestilence is it's a highly played card,
Yeah.
and I can totally see some deck playing a combination of like Pestilence and some other white enchantments and Wicked Visitor, it's like a black white enchantment themed deck.
Yeah.
I can totally see that, and it all it takes it's for us to go through the spoilers and see what white enchantments are and black enchantments.
Well, and
Uh,
even in formats like Pauper, you have really cheap enchantments that act as removal by giving creatures minus blank minus blank. So like Dead Weight, for example, for 1 black, you remove something, that
yeah,
enchantment hits the graveyard, you're punishing your opponent while taking their creatures out. Death's Approach,
yeah,
minus X, where it's equal to the number of creature cards in the opponent's graveyard. Um, there's a lot of, I feel, wiggle room on how you can build this. Um,
I can see that for sure.
and I don't know. In formats like Commander, it makes your opponents think twice about like mass enchantment removal.
Yeah, back to nature type of effect.
Yeah. Um, like an Abzan Enchantress deck, which just came out as a precon.
Yep,
Yeah, I see this slotting into a lot of different things. All of them
I can
kind
see
of.
that in Commander, like some kind
Yeah,
of like Abzan Enchantress deck.
yeah. I mean, Commander Masters had a really good Abzan Enchantress commander.
Yep, it
So
goes in there.
yeah, it slots in real easy.
Even in
Uh,
standard.
yeah,
We talked
that's
about the standard Celestia deck. You can probably play a Abzan version of it,
yeah.
and it might slot in pretty well because you have a lot of enchantments that do. hit the bin. It plays with sagas and stuff like that, so they naturally go to the graveyard. So they're sort of slowly draining your opponent for one, and it adds up. It
Yeah,
adds up easily.
yeah. Especially if, and since this thing is not legendary, you can stack multiple of these onto the field. Um,
Yeah,
like I said, I think this thing is going to kill some people in various different formats, and I don't think it's going to be busted, but I think it's going to be a strong include in certain decks.
yeah.
So that's my number one.
All right.
That's in my opinion the card I'm most excited about, just because I want to see where it goes. Now, what's yours?
Are you, are you ready for mine?
Yeah,
And are you ready for it to be blue again?
yeah, yeah.
It is
Ha-
also a common card,
have either of us just picked
and
a red card?
uh I saw one red card that I kind of liked, but a lot of the red cards were kind of mid. I There's one in particular that I really liked, which probably should be in my top 5 because I'm probably gonna try playing it. Um, but you know what? So my card was sleight of hand because it's a reprint,
Yeah,
and I've been dying to see this come back. Uh, it's a card that I am dying to play with in standard. I am happy to play. I love playing cantrips. So standard now has consider and has sleight of hand,
yeah,
and you get cards like impulse and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot there's quite a critical mass of like cantrip options for standard that we didn't previously have.
yeah,
But you know what? I'm gonna change my sleight of hand if you're okay with that,
yeah. That's totally fine.
and I'm gonna choose this one. I think this card is legitimately very good. Go back. It's in the adventure one. This one, the Decadent Dragon. I will play
Oh
this
yeah,
card. This is a 4 mana, pay 2 colorless, 2 red creature dragon. It's a 4/4 flying trample, and when it attacks, you create a treasure, which is already
yeah.
a lot of great stats.
It's what,
Like
like
I
Gold
played
Span
the
Dragon?
hell out of gold.
Yeah,
Yes, I played the hell out of Gold Spent Dragon when it was in standard as well. Um, so I am excited to see this card existing, and it has an adventure side of it. It is black. It's called Expensive Taste, and it's 2 colorless and black. Instant adventure, also an instant. Exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. This is
strong.
one of my most hated cards in recent years. Has Siphon Insight. This is
Yeah,
it's
it's
I'm
just
gonna
expensive
pull
taste,
it
but
up.
for a blue and a black, right?
It's a blue and a black for expensive taste, basically. Siphon Insight. Did I write it wrong? Maybe it's not Siphon.
No, it is Siphon Insight. It's from Midnight Hunt. If you want to go find it that way, but that's the one that has
Oh,
flashback.
I wrote Siphon with Y.
Oh, it's yeah, Siphon.
Yeah, so it's basically the same thing. It's instant for blue and a black. Look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down and put the other on the bottom of that library. You may look at and play the exile card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast a spell.
Yep.
Like you said, it has flashback, which means that I can play it from my graveyard again, but for an extra cost. It's a colorless, a blue, and a black. I absolutely hate this card, and it's one of the better cards you can play in a mirror match in a control mirror matchup. Now, the big difference between this and the dragon is the fact that this lets you play your those spells without having to jump through hoops to get the color requirements.
Right.
So if I'm playing blue black and my opponent's just playing a green deck, with this card I can still play those cards. Now with Siphon Insight, with the expensive taste from the dragon,
It doesn't have that color fixing on it. You have to attack with the
exactly.
dragon to make the treasure tokens.
Yeah, and you use the treasure tokens to cast those cards, basically.
It's a
So if
card that
I'm
feeds
not
into
playing
itself.
green, yeah, but it kind of curves into itself,
Yeah,
right?
from a
So
three
you
drop
can
into a 4 drop.
exactly, and it's you can even ignore the adventure side of it. You can just play it as a 4/4/4
With
and
flying and
start
trample, it
smashing
makes
things.
treasures. Yeah, I mean, that's already a good rate on a creature, and the expensive taste is just like the cherry on top. Getting to play,
Yeah,
the top two cards of your opponent's deck. That's not bad, but neither is a 4/4 with flying and trample and makes a treasure every time it attacks for 4.
yeah.
That is,
I've heard a lot of people talking about this. I think this card is legitimately good. If if
can't wait for red
if
black to be the
anything,
top
I
deck in the
can
format again.
I can see it being played in standard for sure.
Yeah,
I will love to play this on turn 4, and then on turn 5 attack with it, get a treasure, and then play Chandra, the 6-mana Chandra, the one that
yeah.
copies things when you play an instant sorcery and you copy it. I cannot wait to play Chandra on turn 5, or maybe earlier if I have a way to like ramp it.
Yeah,
Like I think
card seems really
I
good.
I think this card has a lot of potential, and I'm if I'm gonna draft off a deck list, it's gonna be a blue red mid range deck where I try to play dragon as quickly as possible,
Blue red
kill
mid range
things,
seems
and then
like a
Chandra on
weird
them.
combination of words.
I have consider, I have sleight of hand.
You got decadent dragon. You got the otter.
I got the land. I got the land.
True. Yeah. You know what? You can even splash in some green and black. Just do 4-color mid range at
Yeah,
that point.
dude, I got all my wild cards on arena. I'm building this.
Yeah. Let me know how that goes. Because that's either gonna be really good or it's gonna be really bad.
uh
Uh,
yeah, actually, how are we on time?
we're at an hour and 21 minutes.
Oh, already?
Yeah, yeah. And
All
we
right.
haven't even hit the commander decks.
No, I think we can skip the commander decks for now. We can
Oh,
just say
sure.
they're good and buy them.
Yeah. Both of them are really strong, actually. Um, the one I would go with is Fairy Dominion, but I would not turn my nose up at Virtue and Valor either. The green-white one. It has some really strong pieces getting reprinted, and a Hall of Heliod's Generosity for you enchantment players who were waiting for this very niche reprint.
Yeah, for those who don't know, or not in the know, so Walls of Eldraine is going to have two commander decks. So one of them is going to be the blue black fairy deck, and the other one's going to be a green white sort of aura enchantment themed deck. Um, it has a lot of both of them have very very good cards. The enchantment one has stuff like Core Spirit Dancer that draws you cards whenever you play auras, and Umbra Mystic that gives them totem armor, so it makes your creatures harder to kill. Um,
Angelic Destiny,
mm,
makes your
Angelic Destiny.
which makes your creatures a 4/4 with flying and first strike and an angel, and then when that creature dies, you get Angelic Destiny back into your hand.
Yeah.
Like there's a
The blue black fairy one. The blue black fairy one has Kindred Dominance. It has Distant Melody. It has Frantic Search. It has like your usual suite of really cool fairies, and like you get Una and you get Cloud of Fairy, which untaps your lands. You get so
Rankle.
many good cards in this deck.
Yeah, there's
Brazen Borrower is in here.
yeah. Yeah, Brazen Borrow was in there. So was Glenalendra Archmage.
Yeah.
Um,
So I highly
yeah.
suggest picking up these decks when you can. At Haven, we're doing $45 on them, 44.99, and if you buy both, you get $10 off. Essentially, it's five of each. So you can grab both decks for $40 a piece, plus tax. Um, I'm gonna just so we can sort of close with a tiny little bow. Um, how do you feel about Wells of Eldraine, Tristan?
Overall, I feel like this is. I don't feel it's as broken as Throne of Eldraine. um, but that's kind of it's going to be hard to hit that level of broken again for some time. But I feel like it's a very strong set. I feel like there's a lot of really fun and unique designs in this set. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next standard season, and then see where a bunch of these cards that we talked about today end up in other formats. There's a lot of potential for Pioneer to start brewing around this. there's a lot of potential for Pauper to start brewing around this. Commander always gets stuff in every set, so this
Yeah.
doesn't feel any different. But the 60 card formats feel like they're getting some new playthings, and I'm going to be excited to see which of these cards end up making the cut in some of these more eternal formats.
No, I kind of agree with you, and I love that it's not as strong as Throne of Eldraine. Like
Oh, thank God, yeah.
it's I they definitely they are definitely intentionally designing the set to not be as strong as Thermal Drain because
Hmm.
we still have battle scars from that. Um,
Yeah, we were joking in the store the other day that they're just going to reprint Oko at 2 mana. you know?
we have the mental battle scars are still there, like those Oko Gilded Goose Days. That was miserable to
Once
play
upon
with
a time.
and play against.
yeah.
Yeah, I still, dude, I still have to. I still have every day. I still have to play against the Cauldron, the Witch's Oven, and Cauldron
Cauldron
Familiar
familiar. Yeah.
combo. The one with the cat, and that is from Throne Drain.
Yeah.
And I still have to see it every single day. Like I absolutely hate that combo. Um, but I'm glad it's not at that level. I like that. I keep looking at the spoiler. I keep finding really cool cards and things that they might be worth playing around with
Yeah.
and building cool decks. I honestly think this is a fantastic set. The art is wonderful, and it's gonna be really fun to draft. Which
And
you will see me at the pre-release this weekend for sure.
that's not even getting into the
Um,
Enchanting Tales, the bonus sheet in every pack
dude, yeah, we didn't
that
get to
we
talk
that we
about
didn't
that,
even
and
talk about, where it's all these high power enchantment reprints.
Bitter Blossom sneak attacks, which I think you can play in limited. Like if
Yeah,
you
you
open
can.
these and
I will
yeah,
be
if
killing
you
myself
open
with a
these in your
Necropotence
seal
if I
pool,
pull it.
if you open these in your seal pool or you're drafting the set and you open one of these, you can play with them in your pool for sure.
Yeah.
Um, they're very powerful. There's a lot of room and cool cards that you can play with in seal that will feel head and shoulders above everything else. Um, but before we sign off, I would like to remind everyone that like we said, pre-release is this Friday, September 1st at 7 p.m. at Haven Games. Um, if you can't make it out to Haven Games and or you have a different store preference, check out your local store for that information to see when they're doing it. Us at Haven, we're doing also a Modern Regional Championship qualifier on Sunday, September 17th. Registration starts at 11, but you can also pre-register the same way you can pre-register for the pre-release, which is on our webpage on haven-games.com. That regional championship qualifier is going to be a $25 entry, but but top eight will get cash prizes for this. And then on September 24th is going to be our Pauper Shindig, which it's like Tristan has been talking a lot about Pauper, so you can
Love
try
Pauper.
those cards in this tournament. Also $25 cash prices for the top eight, and first place is getting a very special playmat that we worked on, and that says champion, and it's AI generated art, but it's original. No, we
I
can't
don't know.
call it that.
I
No,
don't know. I don't know what the ethics on AI art are just yet.
but as long as we disclose it's AI
yeah.
generated, apparently it's fine. So we're disclosing it. Um, it's another angle that we're trying and see how it appeals to people. But the one that we came up with, it's very nice playmat, and so stay tuned for that. And um, also the first 16 people to register for this one is gonna get the nice Lotus Petal promo. Um, that is like foil etched, and it's actually
Yeah.
pretty nice.
It's
It's
a real.
quite
It's one
beautiful.
of the best promos I think they've sent out in a long time.
Oh yeah,
Because Lotus Petal
oh
needs
yeah.
more printings.
It does. It's still like $17-$20.
yeah, it's still one of those most expensive commons I think in circulation or like legal in any format.
Yeah, but yeah, that kind of just this is it for today.
yeah.
I want to thank everyone who stayed to the last and listen to us banter.
for an hour and a
If
half.
you, I Yeah, this is our first one. I know it was pretty long for our first one, but I feel like it was quite productive. But this being our first one, I really encourage any comments, suggestions, anything that could help us improve the podcast. This is our first time doing podcasts, right? Um, so the more we can learn, the better, and the more we can improve it
Yep.
for a first go around, the better. And we promise not to stay that long unless this is something that people like, and we don't mind staying that long.
Yeah.
We love talking, and we love talking about Magic and the different games. And mind you, we're not just going to be talking about Magic. We'll be talking. Tristan is an avid player of One Piece. We can talk about One Piece sometimes. We can talk about Lorcana, talk about Pokemon. I play a lot of Pokemon still. Um, which actually we might be doing a challenge soon, which we might bring up next time.
Yeah.
And we also got an email to. We probably won't talk about Yu-Gi-Oh much, but we did get an email about setting up a regional tournament of some kind. I need to pull that email back up, but apparently there's a new set called Age of Overlords that's coming out. So it's tied into that season, and I think it's super interesting. And we've never done anything like this, so we might look into it as well. But anyway, final thoughts is whatever suggestions, feedback, anything, as long as it's constructive, we'll hear it. We'll welcome it. We would like to improve. And uh, I don't know. Anything else you want to say, Tristan, or you
Yeah.
want to add?
Well, I know for a fact we're putting this at least on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, one thing I want to see in the comments is what cards from Wild of Eldraine are you excited for and why? And what cards from the bonus set, well, the bonus sheet, are you excited for? The Enchanting Tales. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but there's a ton of really cool stuff, and I'd like to see kind of more on what the community thinks on it because I haven't seen a lot of what the community thinks on it outside of it's
Yeah,
good. There, so far all I've heard is it's good, and I can't disagree. So I'd be interested to see what others think about the set as a whole. I know we've talked about it for well over an hour now, so
yeah. Yeah, man. So sorry for the listeners, and and also on comments, if you wanna ask questions that you would like us to answer, we can do like a short Q&A one time. We can actually try to address some questions at the beginning of the show the next time or something like that. And we're always looking for ideas as well, so we'll see.
yeah. If there's anything you
Um,
want us to talk about next time, feel free to leave that as well. We'll do it to the best
yeah,
of our ability. We between the two of us have touched most card games.
yeah, yeah, and as I always say, when you're a Haven Games, you're kind of like family. Because if I say it
Oh,
any other way, it would be getting sued by Olive Garden. Um, so we love you. Have a great day or night or morning, whenever you're watching this. Take care and stay safe, and
thanks
just
for
be nice to
listening.
each other. Bye.
Bye.